Welcome to Page to Screen, the podcast where Nikki and Christina discuss books that were turned into movies and films that were adapted from books. As always, we do remind you that spoilers lay ahead. Now we invite you to decide with us the age-old question, which is better, the book or the movie?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Page to Screen. Joining as always, the player one to my player two, Christina. How are you doing?
Well, thank you, Nikki, for that wonderful introduction. Today I'm feeling quite rubenesque. We'll get into it.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because I don't know if our definition of rubenesque is the same as everybody else's.
Oh boy, yeah, that brings us into what we are discussing today.
Oh, sorry everybody. Today's book and movie is Ready Player One.
Yes, so Ready Player One is a book that came out 2011. It's a nerdapalooza. It's hard to even really give like a synopsis because it's just so complicated that it's in a dystopian future.
Yeah.
Like you start explaining it and
it doesn't make sense. It's like the book and the movie luckily kind of share the same plot,
yeah,
so we only have to do this once. It's a dystopian future with video game Easter eggs.
It's a dystopian future in which the world is on the brink of, I mean, it has collapsed and everybody's just kind of, struggling. And the one thing that everybody has is this place called the Oasis, where you can go into this virtual reality world, and within it you can play your own video games, you can go to school, and then what happens is that the person, Halliday, who is the mastermind behind it, he dies, and upon his it gets so long. Upon his death, he makes this Easter egg hunt. So if you win the Easter egg, then you get control over the Oasis and all this money. So all of these different players have been trying to discover the egg, and in order to get to the egg, there's three different. It's basically a video game within a video game.
Yeah, it's a video game within a video game within the real world.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Like ogres have layers, the Oasis has layers.
Yeah, and we follow Wade, who is the main person, but his Oasis name is Parzival. And then he has a love interest who's also a competitor, Artemis, and his best friend is called H.
Yeah.
So those are their video game names within the world of the Oasis. So the book is primarily, I would say, in the Oasis. It's probably like 80% in the Oasis and 20% in the real world.
Yeah, I was going to say for the purposes of the podcast, I am 90% going to refer to them as their player handle versus their real life name, just because the whole book is from that perspective, really.
Right. Yep.
The other big thing about the book and the creator, even though it's set in the future, the creator Halliday grew up in the 80s, so everything is 80s centric, and by 80s centric I mean 80s teenage boy centric, not 80s for everybody centric. Oh, can you tell I'm already upset about this? Sorry.
See, this is your first time, right, reading the book and then watching the movie?
Yeah. I saw the movie when it first was available on HBO because I didn't want to pay to see it in theaters because I wasn't sure about it. Mm-hmm. That sounds, I feel like I'm going into this really negatively, and let's backtrack a minute.
You feel the way you feel. I mean, don't.
Yeah, it's just I saw the movie and I didn't hate the movie. I was like, okay, for what it was, I guess that was fine. Like it was just like, okay, and I'll tell you more about my feelings when we talk about the movie. But reading the book and then watching the movie, oh God. I have a lot of feelings. Doing this podcast gives me so many feelings that I didn't know I had about things that I once mildly enjoyed.
Yeah, for me, this was the second time reading the book. I read it originally in, I think, 2014 or 2015. Then, but this was also the first time that I watched the movie. So this was my second time reading it. And originally I was not going to reread it because I thought, I got it. I remember, the book, and I'll just pull up, the Wikipedia and just remind myself or whatever. And then I saw the term Gunter. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot what a Gunter is. So I guess I gotta read this fucking book again.
You know what's really funny is that in the movie, they really don't refer to them.
No.
So when we were recording the last episode, you mentioned Gunter, and it took me maybe the whole rest of the day to realize that Gunter was not named Gunter off of the guy who runs the coffee shop on Friends. Because Friends wasn't around in the 80s. I was like, wait a minute. Why would they name a bunch of people after the guy from Friends?
It's so funny. See, I don't dislike the book. I think that the book it's not going to change anybody's world, literary, style or anything like that. But I think it's fun. It's basically what a popcorn flick is, but for books. It's fun. Period. Yeah. It's fun.
Like, I didn't dislike the book. I liked. This is something that pops up a lot in the books that we're reading for the podcast. Is there's always these books where suddenly there's a lot of information about something.
Right.
Like, we did it with American Psycho. We did it with the She Shall Not Be Named first podcast of the New Year book. But you learn a lot about, the time period, and, I learned so much about Rush that I hate myself. I was like, I don't care. I literally wrote in my notes, ugh, Rush, why? And Jesse's going, I love Rush. I'm like, that's because you're Canadian. You have to. Jesse's like, I love that Tom Sawyer song.
The exposition is it's a lot to swallow, and it's pretty constant. The way that how they say, like, show don't tell, there's a lot of telling going on when you're reading it.
Yeah, it took me a long time to read this, even though what's happening is really fun and, like, I'm into it, because, like, you and I also grew up we grew up with Nintendo, like, early Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Like, I know personally we had the first Nintendo in my house, but I also have two older brothers, so we had the first Nintendo, the first Game Boy Color. We had, if it was available to play when plugged into your television, we had it. So reading a lot of that stuff was really fun. But then after a while, it was kind of just like, can I skim over the part about these computers? Like, is the Easter egg hidden in this computer? It's not? Okay, I'm just going to read with my eyes, not with my mind.
Yeah, right.
So, our main character is Wade Watts. So named because his dad wanted him to sound like a superhero, which I thought was super cute.
Well, and also his name is Wade Owen Watts, so it's like, wow, World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that I didn't think was as cute. It's just Wade Watts. But he's kind of like your average teenager, your average teenage boy. He's poor. His parents have both passed away, and he lives with an aunt who hates him. So he kind of like lives in a stack of cars where he goes into the Oasis, and he's so poor he can only be on one planet, which is his school planet. And
you're laughing.
I am laughing because saying the word school planet, a planet of schools, just cracks me up. I'm like, this is crazy.
Well, And there's obviously very direct points to different pop culture, but it's also just subtly done in the storytelling, because the way that Wade Watts is an orphan, he's living with an aunt. It's very Luke Skywalker. There's even a moment where he says he likes to look out at the sunset.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the thing with, his aunt is mean, so it's very Harry Potter. It's like all of those tropes are taken into consideration with the characters and the storytelling, even if it's not as obvious as direct references to all these different movies and video games.
Well, I got a lot of Spider-Man from it too, especially when you look at the new Tom Holland ones where he lives with his aunt, and Artemis, like Wade goes into the Oasis, puts on his super suit, and becomes Artemis. It was just
Parzival.
Oh yeah, Parzival. Whatever. Oh my God, change your names.
We
kids.
gotta keep these names straight.
Yeah, don't want to screw you guys up. For those of you who haven't read the book, Artemis is coming. But yeah, it was really interesting to see how much they pulled from so much to create the world. Like, the world was really interesting because the world is still a place. Like, Earth is still around. The difference is that, like, fossil fuels have ruined everything, and we're all really obsessed. And honestly, I was scared reading this, some of the descriptions of things, because you talk about how he's basically raised by the Oasis because his mom was working 2 jobs. And, I'm a kid of the 90s. I can remember just coming home from school, putting on MTV and just sitting, like, we were basically, I mean, it's not nearly as bad as I would say it is now. Oh, well, especially now in COVID times, more kids are being taught virtually, just like Wade was. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see how spooky the book was about the past and the future. Like, we're basically learning through the internet, and we're attached to it. Literally, it's on our phones, it's everywhere. Just like the Oasis was for everybody there. Like, you could walk around outside and be in the Oasis.
Yeah, and like, even when he's talking about his parents, I thought it was kind of neat that when he's talking about his mother, she ends up dying because she's a drug addict. And the way that he says it, he is very... He empathizes with her, which I thought was refreshing, because typically anyone who has, drug abuse problems in media, they're usually deemed to be, loser or, a slacker. And she is just a product of this world that's fallen apart. She has to, work these multiple jobs. The only thing that she ends up getting any relief with is drug abuse. And you just think about the problems that we have now with opioids and everything. I mean, it's an actual thing. And even though it's only like 1 or 2 lines about her, I thought that was important.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, it gave us a deeper understanding of
Wade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. His character is just so, they set him up to be such an interesting character, and you really do want to root for him throughout the entire competition. Like, you're really into it. He deserves it. You do it, Wade Watts. So Wade has a friend, H, not spelled like the letter H, until in the book when he says, like, because they have the character's name, and it's spelled out AECH. And it's like a line and a half before they go, oh, it's pronounced like the letter H. I was like,
so you're like, I was gonna say. So it's like, oh, a sneeze?
Yeah.
He's friends with a sneeze?
Every time I read it, I was like, bless you. But basically, H is his best friend, his only friend. He mentions that a lot. That he has no real friends in the real world because he was bullied in school because he didn't fit in. Ugh. Ugh. I hate that. Oh, it was so weird and I didn't fit in. Whatever. Anyways, anyways, his best friend H is like I guess the Oasis version of like an MMA fighter on the weekends, but is still in high school. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like that was the thing that I found most interesting is what everybody does to make money
Right.
in the Oasis. Like, because in order to do anything in the Oasis, to travel, to change your avatar, it all costs like coin. And H does his MMA, whatever, fighting and destroying of other people. And then Parzival just goes to other lands and just like kills lower level creatures to try and get coins.
Yeah, and Parzival, because of the Easter egg hunt game with Halliday, he is more focused in on just memorizing and learning the Halliday information and book and all the stuff that he was into. So he's almost more of like the cerebral one, like going in and just absorbing all of this different pop culture that is referenced in it's called an almanac that he is just obsessive over.
Oh yeah, when he talks about how he found a dot matrix printer and printed it out, like reading it, I could hear it printing. And I was like, "Oh, is he gonna tear off the little perforated edges?"
I was wondering what you thought about H, because I almost want to just go ahead into the twist that happens with H, because I think, well, I won't say my opinion. I want to know what yours is.
Do we want to go right into the twist now?
Yeah, might as well.
So, H in the game is like a buff, like super muscular white guy. But in real life, H is H Helen? Mm-hmm. Is that her name?
Helen, yeah.
Yeah. H is actually a woman named Helen, a lesbian of color, which I thought, I am torn on this, to tell you the truth. Because I was so happy that H turned out to be a female character that was not constantly viewed with the female gaze throughout the book. Mm-hmm. Almost as if by the time we got to the reveal, what's his name there? Ernest was like, yeah, let's just make H a woman to throw him off a little bit. But right. I was upset with how quickly, like, it's there and gone. Like, it didn't even matter. And it should matter. What H says about why they picked the avatar they picked should have made more of an impact on Wade. And it did not. And I think that
I can see that.
That made me mad a little bit. Like, a lot of it.
I remember being so surprised at the twist. I can oftentimes expect whatever the twist is, but I was not expecting that when H says, I'm going to look different, or something like, I'm not going to look like the way you think I look like when they meet. I almost thought that perhaps it was going to be someone in a wheelchair or something like that. And then it turns out that it's a black woman, and she's also described as being on the heavier side. And I thought that was really cool. And I also thought that in this world that you and I live in, when us as a society are looking at what gender means and what it means for each of us, the fact that these two people were able to connect and never see each other, and it didn't matter what gender that they have. And that the one thing that he gets mad about, and I do think that it's understandable, he gets mad because he thinks, well, great, I talked like a guy to this woman, and I told her personal things about girls, so he feels a little betrayed, but then it turns out that she's a lesbian. So then he's like, oh, okay, so
he feels vindicated, like, oh, everything's fine.
Yeah, and I thought that that was just really cool. But I do hear what you're saying with the impact on Wade. I do see that as something that could have been expanded upon.
Yeah. Because the point that's made in the book is that H H's mom, before H comes out, before Helen comes out, as gay, wanted has already been in the Oasis working as a white man because they get paid more. So she works like customer service or something, and her avatar is a white man. And
It's so
she
fucked up.
pushed that on to H, like, to go farther in the world being the Oasis now, it's better to look like the white male norm than it is to just be yourself. And that was so it was such like a beautiful expression of honesty from this character, and then it kind of just was like not important enough
Right.
to really be looked upon. Like, we get a speech from Holiday later in the book where he's basically like, yeah, the Oasis is great and everything, but
Right.
there's so much more out there in the actual world. And to have that sentence come after H has already laid down this really heavy moment, almost like what are you doing as an author, where it's like you're gonna tell us that we should all go outside, but you're also gonna give us this moment that you're just not going to bring back and talk about
That's
at all.
actually that's a really good point. I never even thought about that. And to be honest, I don't think that the author did either. But yeah, because I like that line at the end, and where he is talking about, you got to live your life too, not just in this thing. And it's like, yeah, you can say that to Wade, but what about these other people who are struggling?
Yeah.
The reason why that they disappear is because life is just too difficult. And now you're telling the guy who's now, super rich, live your life. It's like, of course he lives life.
Hey, rich white guy,
Yeah.
go out and do what you want to do, but everyone else, maybe stay home.
H is like, Helen's like, hey, I'm still a black lesbian.
Yeah, I'm still a black lesbian, and my mom like kind of kicked me out, so I
Hates
live
me.
in an RV. So what's
Yeah.
good? What's good? Parsival, yeah.
Do you want to talk about Artemis?
Okay,
Your exasperation is killing me.
like I said, like I had seen the movie first, so I
Right.
had a different understanding of the character. And by that, I mean, I watched the movie. I didn't like absorb the film. I watched it for what it was, like a flat Stanley version of something I should really enjoy. So I didn't understand what Artemis was. Mm-hmm. Oh God! After reading the book, is it okay to just say that Artemis is just basically another prize to be won? I mean, is that?
It's completely fair because Artemis is kind of cool. He explains that a lot of, obviously just in the Oasis in general, a lot of people will make their avatars look, really big. A lot of the women look like porn stars or, super hot. And he likes Artemis because she looks more like just an average everyday.
I have this word for word because.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Because I took it from the book and I wrote it down and I was like, I have a feeling I'm going to be upset about this later. I was. What they say in the book about Artemis, who also spells her avatar's name ART3, the number MIS. Mm-hmm. Cool. Artemis,
I do think it's cool, actually. I like it. And it's the Greek goddess of the hunt.
Yeah.
So she's after
and
the
Parsival is the one who went after the Holy Grail. So it only makes sense. So Artemis's body was also somewhat unusual. In the Oasis, you usually saw one of two body shapes on female avatars: the absurdly thin yet widely popular supermodel frame, or the top-heavy, wasp-waisted porn starlet physique, which looked even less natural in the Oasis than it did in the real world. But Artemis's frame was short and rubenesque, all curves.
Yeah. So
I just want to. Can we just hold on? Can I have a moment of silence for this?
Rubenesque. Yeah. Okay. This is sort of like the button that says you tried. Okay.
Yeah.
You have. It's cool that she is. Her body type is cool, and I appreciate it. However, some of the descriptions are, I don't know if you find it offensive, but
Yeah.
a little offensive. And
See, how many languages can I say it in? Yes, I did.
yeah, and so it turns out that her body does match her avatar. So, but what's funny is that he finds out her actual measurements, and her measurements are 5'7" and 100. I want to say it's 167 or 168 pounds. Okay?
Yes, it is.
She would only be, depending on obviously how her body is proportioned, she'd probably be like a size 8.
But what about her clothing line for plus-sized avatars?
Yeah, she's not plus size. She's depending on how her
her proportions
are. I mean,
Yeah.
she could be. She probably isn't even. No, actually, I'm certain that she's not plus size. No matter how she's spread out.
She's spread. When I was reading the book, I was excited for there to be let's ignore the fact that he calls her rubenesque and
I know.
one whole all curves, period. That was the sentence, all curves, really.
All curves.
Let's ignore those descriptions of this. And I was really excited to see, a female character who
1,000%, yeah.
who was described as being, plus size, because you find out all this stuff, like her having a plus size clothing line and stuff after they find the first egg, which, she's awesome. She knew about it before he did. But the thing that was driving me nuts, even before because we don't find out about her height and weight and what her real issue is with why she doesn't want to see him in person until much later. So I was under the assumption this was an actual plus-sized individual who was created to be an adversary but was never supposed to be better than our main male lead.
But she finds the first place first. She finds it before him. And the only reason why, because they go and it's, they have to play joust.
Yeah.
So the only reason why he is able to beat it before she does, even though she's been doing it for about a month, is because he played the game a lot with H and he was usually on the other side.
Yeah.
So he asks the Halliday character who's like battling him if he could play on the other side, and then he can, and then he wins. So then when he sees her, he gives her that tip, and then she's able to beat it immediately after him. And thought it was funny because it's sort of like, and I know people are gonna think that we're reading into this, but fuck it. So it's like his privilege of being a guy who asks for something that she didn't even think of asking for is the only reason why he's able to beat the game.
And that follows him throughout the entire book.
Throughout the whole book, exactly.
And she's, like, that's where I was so upset about her character from the get-go, is that she's been doing it for a month straight. She has been working and building up, and I'm like, this is just like being in a real-life job. You put in the work and you put in the hours. Someone shows up one day, just out of the blue, and does it, and that's it. And that's how she's constantly written throughout the rest of the book, is she's a very strong player. She's very strong, and she is capable of winning the entire thing. But we all know our author being a man and our main character being a man, you can't have the female character be... I mean, this is our manic pixie dream girl, right? I'm sorry. He refers to their... Artemis and Kira are both referred to as the same thing in the book. And it's only used on these women, because there's only 2 of them. The quintessential dream girl.
I know.
Oh, God, gag me. But she can't be stronger than him.
There's a lot of Manic Pixie Dream Girl type. There's a lot of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl treatment for Artemis. However, she doesn't technically fit it because she does have her own dreams and aspirations and goals. So she is one step above it. She isn't one. Kira definitely is. Kira absolutely. Artemis is a little bit more fleshed out. Well, I guess she's rubenesque, so she's more fleshed out.
She's all curves.
Yeah, she's all curves. So when they meet, they discuss what they would each do if they got the money, and he basically wants to like fuck off into outer space.
He's like, I want a spaceship with video games and my best friends. I was like, don't we all?
Looks at him. She's like, okay, you're a fucking idiot. And because what she wants to do is she wants to solve world hunger. And he kind of laughs at her for thinking like, oh, you're going to solve world hunger. And then she explains like, yeah, I am. I am going to solve world hunger. And in doing that, I think that it will have a chain reaction in all these other areas. And even if her want is perhaps a little naive, she still has this bigger thing that she wants to do. It's not just about her and continuing in her lifestyle. Like she wants to fix the whole world. And throughout the book, I can feel her because she's constantly like kind of rolling her eyes and recognizes that this is bullshit. Yeah. And but it doesn't make her so cynical that she's unlikable. She's still extremely likable.
It reminds me of another author who we've sworn never to discuss on this podcast, but one of her characters, Hermione Granger.
Oh, right. Yes, actually, that's perfect.
Yeah. She's still the love interest at the end, but she has her own... The difference between Artemis and Hermione is Hermione is a full character, 360, like you could send her out into the world today and have something come back. Artemis we need Parzival/Wade in order to create Artemis. Do you get what I mean? Like without him, she's kind of just flat. But I really want to dive into something with the Artemis Parzival thing. Because Parzival and H are best friends. They hang out in this chat room called The Basement, where iRock comes in sometimes and they rag on him and they do like bro stuff like, bro, you don't even know what Mario's first name, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Geeks. But Artemis is Parzival's major crush. And he talks about how he tells her straight up that he follows her on all of her social media stuff. He saves all of her avatar photos from her blog. And he's like, he says to her, I've had a crush on you since before we even met, from reading your blog and watching your POV. I've been cyber stalking you for years. That is such a red flag that I think any woman who read this book was like, ding, 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 ding. And they don't want to join up. None of them want to join up and look for the egg together. Not H, not Artemis, not Parzival, not Dido and Shido. Is that how you say it? Shoto. They're called the High Five. They're the first 5 people to get the first egg, and they all decide none of them want to team up to hunt together. And Artemis tells Wade constantly. Like, the egg is my thing. This is what I'm looking for. I don't want to be on your team. I don't want to talk to you. And he kind of, like, harasses her into conversations.
He does the wear down technique.
Yeah.
He's constantly following up with her and wearing her down until she can't say no one more time. And then they start this, virtual relationship.
But see, I wouldn't even call it a relationship. I'd call it more of like an acquaintanceship.
I don't know.
Acquaintanceship?
It's like I wonder if there's a different word for it when you have like an online emotional connection.
Yeah.
The way that they do, because they
Friends.
are talking a lot. They're flirting.
Yeah.
They do things that you would do when you're dating. So they're watching movies together.
They level up their avatars. They go to
It's like, hey baby, you want to level up my avatar? Like,
hey. Avatars and chill. Wink wink. They're like one level above friends, but not in a relationship, because she keeps saying to him, like, we have to find the egg. That's the most important thing. And then they go to the other creator, Og. They go to his birthday party bash on this weird planet where he shows up in a DeLorean that he put Kit from Knight Rider into and then put Ghostbusters stickers on the door. Am I supposed to? I was so mad. I was offended by this car.
I feel like I can see you. I can picture you like sitting there next to your plants, and you're like just looking at the book sitting on a table, and you're like, I can't.
I was so mad. I can't even. I can tell you right now, I've read that line like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, why would you do this to the car from Back to the Future? What is wrong with you? Either get the Ghostbusters car, get the DeLorean, or get Kit from Knight Rider. You can't have all 3 on one car just because you're going to an 80s themed birthday party. What happens at this party? There's like a big explosion and people shooting people and stuff. But back to problematic Artemis and Parzival. Wade / Parzival, in the middle of this whole thing, tells Artemis that he loves her. And she straight up says, you don't know me. Like, we've never met. Like, and he's like, we'll meet in person. I almost said in people. We'll meet in people. she's like, no. Which, honestly, me, if I were talking to somebody on the internet, I'd be like, no, I don't want to meet you in person. You could be the Craigslist killer. Like, I don't want to meet you. I think they caught that person, so it's fine. I still don't want to meet you. But then he's like, are you breaking up with me? And I was like,
we can't break up, because we're not together.
Yeah, and then he still stalks her afterwards.
He does.
Which I should say, he pulls a say anything. He pulls a Lloyd Dobler. And I know in the last episode I said how much I love Lloyd Dobler, because I do. I will die on that hill. But I can admit when Lloyd Dobler does something problematic, like standing in front of a woman's house with a boombox for probably hours playing one song, the song you slept together with. Okay, you know what, Lloyd? I get it. I see you. I hear you. But when Wade does it as his avatar in the book, it bothered me because it comes after he's bombarded her repeatedly for days with emails and voice calls and, avatar chats and inviting her to private chat rooms, sending her gifts, GIFTS, not GIFS, not gifts of like cats, you guys. And then he Peter Gabriel's her, and it's just one after the other, and it is so problematic, and I wish it wasn't written in the book.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when you really get down to it, the relationship wasn't necessary.
Yeah, and it's pretty fast. I think it's only like one chapter where he discusses how they're calling each other and talking and everything. It like comes and goes fairly quickly.
And what they do in the book is they do make mention that it is months, because the first clue is found 5 years after Halliday's death. And then after they all get that first key and they open up the first gate, it's like 6 more months before Artemis gets to the second gate and opens it. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of time, but it's not made clear in the book that all that time has really gone by.
It would probably be a little bit clearer that time is passing if you cut a little bit more to maybe what's going on in the real world. Just like the day-to-day life, because that's primarily omitted, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, we haven't even gotten into this part. After IOI blows up Wade's house. I shouldn't laugh. It's actually I don't
know why you're laughing.
It's like a really sad part.
It is sad.
So Wade gets the first
But again,
key,
it's the Luke Skywalker and his aunt and uncle, their house getting burnt down. Like that, it's the same thing.
Hey, Christina. What's Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's favorite song?
Because if you can't answer it, you're not a Star Wars fan. What song did they dance to at their wedding?
Burning down the house.
No!
Honestly, I think that joke is my favorite one. It's way better than what's the temperature of a tauntaun?
What?
Lukewarm.
Lukewarm. Yeah, I got it.
Try me now, nerds. Do I get to join your club, Parzival? Did I do it? Oh, God. So, let's backtrack just a little bit. Wade gets the first key and opens up the first gate, because in the book, everything's in 2 parts. You get a key, and then you have to open the gate, and then you get a clue to the next key, the next gate, and so on. And after he gets the first key and opens up the gate, he actually meets with Sorrento from IOI, which are the Sixers, and they want to try and win the Easter egg hunt. Easter egg hunt. It's not like that. I mean, Easter egg, like it's a hidden thing, you guys, not like chocolate. He wants IOI to win so that they can control the Oasis and start charging people for it because it's free. And when Wade says he doesn't want to work with them, they blow up his house. And this is something that I found super interesting, is how long he decides then and there that he's going to pack up, because they know where he's at. Like, they know that he lives in what they call the stacks, which are like trailers stacked upon each other. And he decides that he's going to go to Ohio. Is it Ohio? Columbus, Ohio, where the Oasis started. That's where Holiday lived and Og lived and stuff like that. So it takes him like 7 days to get there by bus, because this is when you really understand what's really going on in the real world. Everything is destroyed. No one's paving any roads. Like the Greyhound bus that he's on is an armored Greyhound bus, because you can get robbed at any moment by like wild bands of robbers, I guess, on the side of the road after dark. You know, Wade has to change his identity, and he gets an apartment so he can live by himself. But Sorrento and IOI are legitimate evil, I guess. And that's where the story starts to get really convoluted, is that in addition to... That's where it starts. In addition to Wade trying to find the egg for himself so he can blast off to space with his friends in a rocket ship, and competing against everybody else in the Oasis for the opportunity to blast off in his rocket ship with his friends. He also has to go against the Sixers, who are trying to take it, and Sorrento, who is purposely trying to kill him.
Correct.
Yeah. And but that's the only real instance to the outside world that we have is his trip to his new apartment, because once he gets there, he spray paints the window black so he can just live in his game world.
The parts that I like about this book, because I do like this book. I enjoy it. It is fluffy, but I think it's fun. I like that it gets dark. Yeah. So Sorrento and his evil corporation, I do like it because I think that that's exactly what would happen, is that they find the one loophole in Halliday's rules to the game in order to take over this thing that is this just wonderland for people to escape into and make it for profit. That's exactly what would happen. I also like when Parzival goes to the apartment. It's so bleak. He blacks everything out. He's got this setup where he can go into the Oasis and it's like a really good rig. He does not like the real world. He says specifically that it's the thing that he hates most about his days is having to be a person. So he is eating like sludge for breakfast. He's doing the bare minimum. He doesn't even want to waste time combing his hair, so he just uses this solution that removes all body hair, so he doesn't even have like eyebrows. It's just really sad, and it's very depressing, and it's not played to be something that you would want. It's just sad, and I like that. I liked it a lot. You would think that he would be more attractive or something. That the want of a lot of writers is wish fulfillment. So you would think that he would be a little bit more not sad. I mean, there's even a part where he gets like, it doesn't get like a sex doll or something. Like he's got like the rig done in a way where it's a connection over into basically like a sex doll that then is working alongside the Oasis. And he says that he's like obsessed with it for a while and then gets rid of it because he thought it was like too depressing. I don't know. I like that. I like that it's a little, just bleak and a bit nihilistic.
That part felt really grounded. The sadness that he goes through, because all of that happens after. It's unfortunate because it's such good writing in that portion, but it's linked to his problematic relationship, I use that term lightly, with Artemis, and it drives him into that depression. And I like the fact that he was like, he even says, he gained all this weight, he couldn't fit into his suit to be in his rig, so he has to set up this thing where he has to work out or he can't get into the Oasis, like forcing himself to do what he has to do to get into the only place that he feels comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I agree. I liked that part. The part about like not having eyebrows, weird. It's like, I don't know. I can't think about people without eyebrows. They're just so but that's another thing where it's like, because eyebrows show so much expression, especially, in our world now when everyone's wearing a face mask, you can really tell if someone's surprised or shocked based off of what their eyes and above are doing. And a big part of that is eyebrows. And all I kept thinking was like, this is really how he's trying to, really eliminate his human self and focus more on his avatar. Not just by not taking the time out to wash it and, comb it, but by really getting rid of who he is in the real world, in addition to like changing his fingerprints and everything or whatever, and becoming his avatar.
Exactly. And he decides to become the human extension in the Matrix. He
Yeah.
isn't forced into being just like this body that is plugged in. He wants it. He wants to give away whatever it is of the real world and then just live in the Oasis.
Yeah. So after all of this craziness, I mean, he ends up purposely getting arrested by the Sixers so he can break in there and break down the barrier that they have up around the last gate.
You sound exasperated.
Well, I was trying to remember it because I literally just finished watching the movie the other day. Well, you know. I sent you messages about it. It took me a while to watch it. But I was just trying to remember, make sure I had it correct. But then they all get flown to Ogg's.
Well, wait, no, I don't want to skip this part. This is
when he's in there?
Yes, this is my other favorite part. So, I love when he gets arrested because in this world, it's set up where if you owe too much money, if you're in debt, you are forced into credit, like slavery. You're put into indentured servitude and you're working for the bad guys. You're working for Sorrento. You're forced into it. They do these like modules where they see where your intelligence is. So you might be sent over to Oasis programming, or you might be forced into being a Sixer for them. And again, it just like, it was very kind of Black Mirror for me. I mean, it feels like a Black Mirror episode where they take you, they like pierce your ear, they put these like little anklet things on you. You can't watch anything. The only thing you can watch is this bullshit sitcom that's about
it's like training videos, but disguised as a sitcom.
Yeah, and they're in those, I can't remember what they're called, but they're those like little sleeping things. It's something like a coffin shape.
Like a hyperbaric chamber situation.
Yeah, and I don't know. I really like that part too.
Yeah.
I thought it was really creepy, and
I will say about that, I thought I was missing pages because
oh really?
It happens like everything's just like usual, and then the start when he gets arrested is the start of a brand new chapter, and it's just him getting arrested, and I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean he's being arrested?
Yeah, now I can understand what you mean because it's done almost like an Ocean's 11 movie where you're reading it and they don't explain what he's already done. So it's not until he's already arrested, he's already through processing, he gets his assignment, he's there where he divulges to the reader that he stole these codes. So he got arrested on purpose. That way he can hack into their system. Yeah. So yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, and I was just like,
right.
I'm sorry. What did you do? Did they find you? Are they gonna kill you? What's happening? I was very upset too because I went back and I was like, no, the page numbers are right.
But yeah, I think that part's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So anyways, at the end of it, he does get the codes so he can move on.
Yeah. And we don't really know what he's actually doing with some of the stuff. Like, we find out later the entire plan. But while he's there, he's talking about how he's like ordering extra stuff and getting it dropped off at a desk down from him. And this is when we find out all about Artemis. About our rubenesque, all curves Artemis.
Yeah, because while he's hacking into the system, he sees that Sorrento has plans to kill all of them. And the only one that he doesn't have a little dossier on is H. Yeah. But they're close to figuring out who H is.
Yeah. And he watches the video of which
Shoto.
Yeah. Is it Shoto who dies or is it
Yeah, it's Shoto. It's the younger one.
Yeah, and it's very depressing.
It's very sad.
It's hard to even like read those pages. And it was hard when what's his name came to visit him and told him about it.
Yeah, Daito.
Yeah, I was like, for some reason I thought Daito died in the book. Because I thought that it was Shaito who shows up at his weird lunar house.
I think you might be right. I'm pulling out my book. Daito dies, Shoto's alive.
Okay.
You are correct. I apologize.
No, you trust me, I've been there.
You know what we need though? We need some sort of like on like TV when it's like the pause and it's like do 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 like when they're like it's like the you know what I'm talking about? Like your program will be back shortly.
Yeah.
Like we need music like that for whenever one of us goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technical
whenever
difficulties.
One of us has to go on a Google search. Yeah.
But so yeah, he takes all the files. He takes all these files and everybody, and we find out the reason Artemis doesn't want to meet him in person is because she has a birthmark on her face.
Right.
Cool. And then our rubenesque, all curves, birthmarked face. But he also talks about her then too, about her smirk and her eyes. Oh, you're in a pod, dude. Escape first, then fantasize about her. But he gets out, and we still don't fully understand what he's done until Og shows up in one of their chats in the basement and tells him that he's been following the whole thing. He can't interfere, but he's going to send planes to pick them all up from everywhere they're at since the Sixers are trying to kill them. And then they're all in one house. And Artemis still doesn't want to see Wade, and he's kind of butthurt about it.
He's both like butthurt about it, but he's also a little relieved.
Yeah. And then it's
because he's nervous.
It's the final countdown. There we go. Look it, we did it. We could do the Easter egg challenge. We get the final battle, and you realize that what Parzival/Wade was actually doing was trying to tear down the defense wall that the Sixers had put up around the final gate. And I just want to say, of all of the challenges in the book, the final gate being associated with Schoolhouse Rock made me so happy. Because I read, honestly, like I had never read the book. I read those 3 words, and they're all like, blah, these 3 words, where are they from? Blah, blah, blah. It could be from this, could be from that. And I was like, I know these.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. These 3 words, but I was like, they're not in the correct order. And then it was as I was reading it with them, I was like, oh my God, I know 3 is a magic number. I know this. So I felt that was like, for me, that was like, yeah, what? Like, I'll never beat Pac-Man and get my extra quarter. I'll never be able to do any of that stuff. But that one, sign me up. Sign me up for the next war.
That's like the thing that I think is like really cool though about this book is that there's like so many different references that I think there's something for a lot of different people to like. I really thought that the whole part with I'm not even like a big Blade Runner person, but I thought that was like kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like there's a lot of stuff that almost anybody who's kind of a nerd could pick up this book and find at least a couple things that they are really into. And then if you're a gamer, especially like the older stuff, I think you'd really like enjoy this. And that's like the fun thing about it is that there's just a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah. Like I personally really liked when he had to go into the movies and do the quotes from the movie, because that's such a I know you and you know me. That feels like an us thing. Where I can watch any movie that I've seen like 100 times and do it from beginning to end. Are you kidding me? I don't even have to be watching the movie and I'll do it from beginning to end for you.
Oh, there's like a good chunk of movies that I'm like, just give me some paper. I'll write down the script for you.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, it was like one woman show. I'm here.
Yeah.
But I will say, even though there is something for everyone in the book, I do think that it is a glaring omission to really focus so hard and heavy. And maybe it's just, what Ernest, as a teen was actually into, but he's missing out on a whole other chunk of the 80s for everybody. Like there's no mention of a lot of female-centric moments in the 80s versus just the male moments of the 80s. So you have like Rush and all the video games where he even describes like what's the one where the guy is in like the loincloth and you swinging from tree to tree or whatever. Great. But you also in the 80s had like Gem and the Holograms, the Babysitters Club, the original My Little Pony, Care Bears. Yeah, I know it's all like sissy and kind of childish, but those were also big cultural moments that could have been incorporated somehow. It didn't just have to be so... I don't know. Well, I just, like, even when they talk about Artemis, there's a part in the book where they can pick their own channels. And the shows that Artemis is showing are shows that teenage boys would watch, because she was showing old, like, Wonder Woman and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, it was still...
Yeah, and it's... The thing is that had you had maybe at least one or two chapters, because I'm not a huge fan of the perspective that you get the book from, where it's Wade telling us things because he's been offered all these movies and everything, so this is the first time that he's actually telling what happened from his own viewpoint. I'm not a huge fan of the actual way that it is framed and told. I think that it would possibly be better under a different way where perhaps you could dip into the other characters. Yeah. So if you had like even one or two Artemis chapters where it's coming from her perspective, because even like they're talking about how they create their own planets. So her planet is the Benatar planet. I mean, there's some really cool stuff where you can have her focus in more on the female perspective of the 80s while still enjoying stuff like Highlander, which is her favorite movie, and Lady Hawk and stuff. Like having that addition would definitely cure a lot of the problems.
I would have killed to have explored her planet just a little bit more.
I know.
Because just from the name alone, I was like, ooh, this is where I would be spending all of my free time.
Yeah.
It just kind of like, yeah, Wade's perspective on everything, and granted, he is our main character. He's the protagonist. He's who we follow throughout the entire thing. But I agree. I think there just needed to be a little bit more from some of these side characters, because you even get more from Shido and Daido. Like, you get more of that. But the only, which now that I'm saying it, I'm about to get real mad about this. The only two female characters, H and Artemis, you really don't get much from their perspective. Like, at all. Like, we even see the death of another character, but we can't see what H's RV's totally like for H. We can't see what it's like, for on planet Benatar. Like, this, ooh. And I'm really trying hard not to get mad about this, because there is a sequel that just came out.
I know.
And, perhaps in this sequel we do delve into a little bit more. I mean, I have no idea what the sequel is about. I have not read the description of it. Like, for all I know, maybe it's from somebody else's perspective. I doubt it.
I have not read any of his other books, so this is absolutely not my opinion. It's just what I read multiple times on a couple different reviews, is that he's almost like he is almost like the Gillian Flynn, where she's got Gone Girl, and that's, like, really good. But then all the other books, the reviews seem to be like, it's not Gone Girl. It's like you had one, and everything else is just kind of, So the thing that I've read on a lot of different reviews was that Ready Player One is, like, his opus, and then these other books are just kind of saying that he's a one-trick pony. Again, this isn't my opinion. This is just what I read. But to me, that kind of makes sense, just because it all seems to be within the same vein.
Yeah. Oh, how sad is that his first book is so 80s centric and it's a one-hit wonder.
right?
Womp, womp, womp.
And again, that's not my opinion. I don't know if that's accurate or not. The other two could be great. Who knows? But that is very funny. He's a wonder.
Like this is the only thing of his that I've read. I did like the book overall. Like, there are a lot of problems I had with it. But I enjoyed being in that world. I enjoyed it because, video games are such a big part of, they were a huge part of my life. Like, they're still a big part, especially during COVID. Jesse and I got the Wii back up and running, and we've been trying really hard to go for gold on all the tournaments on Mario Kart. And now we're stuck. We're stuck on the one level where everything's backwards. And I'm like, because you have to go down Rainbow Road backwards. Trust me, forwards is hard enough. So I enjoyed living in that and in that book. So I think I will probably check out the sequel, depending on what the description of it is. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'll check it out from the library. I won't pay for it. I'll rent it.
But so to get back into, because we're almost at the end of this book, the very last one with the Schoolhouse Rock clue.
Yeah. This, honestly, I didn't know if he was going to be able to open the gate.
Yeah.
Because, so, what happened? What happens is there is a device that is mentioned earlier in the book that has the power to, it's a bomb basically, and has the power to destroy every avatar, kill every avatar on a planet, or within like a distance of the planet too. And the Sixers have it, they detonate it, everyone dies. Except for our hero Wade, because also earlier in the book, he plays the perfect game of Pac-Man, which I think they say in the book that maybe like 20 people have ever done or something.
Right.
He gets an extra life because he defeated that like side mission, but he's on like the ground of the cavernous ground of the planet, and the way it sounded to me was like floating in the air.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just in the air, and he has to figure out how to get up there. And Artemis, being the cool girl that she is, has magic Chuck Taylors, her favorite pair. She does say that.
I want to buy some Chuck Taylors right now too.
I love a good pair of Chuck Taylors. I would wear them until they were talking to me like Muppets.
No, I had a favorite pair that were purple, and I wore them like all the time. In fact, I think I wore them to Comic-Con. But
did they make you fly?
No, they did not. I wore them constantly, and I haven't bought any new ones since then. And yeah, they're definitely talking like Muppets.
Yeah.
So I should get a new pair.
You do that thing where you have to like duct tape them together.
No, I never duct taped them. So I would just walk through the streets with rain going inside.
Yeah. I miss my Chuck Taylors. Oh, I love Chuck Taylor so much.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to send us some shoes.
They're like Ray-Bans. They're just like super classic.
Yeah. And they're just instant comfort.
Oh, and actually Artemis also wears Ray-Bans.
Yes. You know why? Because she's cool, like us.
She's cool.
She's also rubenesque. All curves.
Period.
The fact that one sentence was just all curves. I'm sorry.
We should both take like pictures, like mirror selfie pictures, and then just post on Instagram like rubenesque, period. All curves, period.
I'm just gonna put our faces on a painting. Rubenesque. All curves.
Can I please have one of those super weird ones where it's like, one of those beautiful naked women and then like an ugly ass baby, like Cupid floating?
Like a horse, but it's also a cow.
Exactly.
Rubenesque, all curves.
Period.
So Parzival takes the shoes and is able to fly up to the because they were able to open up the gateway before everything exploded, luckily. Because you need 3 people to open it. God forbid they hadn't have opened it before it detonated. He would have been waiting a while for his enemies to show up. But he gets in there, and oh goodness, I can't remember the final challenge. It was the dragon game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's adventure.
Yes. Which is Halliday's favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
He, spoiler alert, he wins. Like, I don't know what, Wade wins the Easter egg hunt. Sorry, took a sip of water. There's nothing. I think this is the part of the book where I kind of started to really want to check out, because I was like, okay, that's it. He's definitely going to win this. I don't.
Yeah, it's a little underwhelming. For as interesting as some of the other challenges were, it's the most underwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah, it was the simplest. I mean, he does that, and then he has to quote Monty Python beginning to end. Which, I mean, we could all do that. My God. No. When I was telling Jesse that that's what he had to do in the book, he was like, done. We were both in the kitchen when I was telling him about it, and then we were talking about something else, and all of a sudden I go, I didn't vote for you.
Right.
What? Oh, Jesse's gesturing to me. He was very excited. And then he gets the egg, and he has to return it to the room from Holiday's instructional video, I guess, at the beginning. And then he's just like given everything. But he is told that there is a button that you can press to turn the whole thing off.
Right.
And honestly, I was like, hit the button. See what happens.
I thought he was going to hit the button too.
Like, after everything that he went through, I kind of wanted him to hit the button.
I'm mixed about it, because part of me does want him to hit the button to turn everything off, but there's also a lot of people where this is their only thing.
Yeah.
It's the only way for a lot of kids to get educated too.
Yeah, that was the thing for me where I was torn about it, because I wanted him to. I wish there was like a half a button where it would turn off half of it, like a Thanos situation where he like snaps his finger and half of the Oasis disappears. Because
right,
I was very into.
Nikki, are you Thanos?
Are you still there? Oops, the Oasis is gone. I was very into the whole idea of like the option to learn through the Oasis and the unlimited libraries and all of that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff about the Oasis that was really off-putting. Especially the murder. But it was, I don't know. I kind of wanted him to do something outrageous at the end. And I guess at the end what he decides to do is share the winnings with the final 4, because they're not the final 5 anymore. And then he meets Artemis in person.
It's such bullshit. And this is the part that I remember reading, and it's one of those weird memories that I remember very specifically. I was in bed, I was reading, and I got to the end of the book, and I was like actively rolling my eyes and laughing, and Carlos asked me what. I was like, this. Because Artemis and him finally meet, and she is in the center of a maze that he has to walk through, and it's just, as you stated earlier, she becomes another prize for him. It's cringe.
And that's where it really hits the nail on the head too, is like,
it does.
Like, oh, the prize is waiting for you in the center of the maze. Like,
right.
Give me a break. And I think that the thing that really bugged me too, because it basically ends. The book ends when they meet in the garden.
Yes.
And he says to her, "I'm in love with you." And then goes, her lower lip started to tremble. "You're sure about that?" "Yes, I am, because it's true." "Listen," I said, "we can take things as slow as you like. I'm a really nice guy once you get to know me, I swear." Yeah, sure. I've heard that before. Everybody in America's heard that at some point. But then she starts crying, like she wipes away some tears. How did we get from Artemis, who was working for a month, finally figured everything out and was about to get that stupid key to go to the first gate, strong, empowered Artemis, to crying in the middle of a garden about her birthmark with her nice guy?
Yeah.
Like Wade's like transition throughout the book is pretty amazing. You know, he goes from just like average kid to superstar to, you know, like fat guy in his house to thin bald man because he purposely was bald, and like becomes a hero. You know, he has a hero's journey, and she has the exact opposite.
He's not even really described at the end, because I wondered that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, he has, you know, all of his hair gone and everything, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember any descriptions, but you don't even really know what he's looking like at that point, because it's like, is his hair growing in stubbly? Does he have like some scarring on his ear from when he was in servitude? I don't know.
Oh yeah, they don't. You know, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. They don't even bring up what he looks like at all, since the last description of him that we had was when he was in that room, and he says that he's using that shampoo that makes him completely hairless. So when he sees her in that garden, she's crying because she has a birthmark on her face. He looks like Mr. Clean, but with no eyebrows.
Or he's got little stubble coming in.
Oh, he's probably like super itchy. Like he's probably constantly scratching his head. Like, we don't know. And
we don't know.
And he's probably like deathly pale because he spray painted the windows.
He's definitely pale.
He's super pale, maybe semi growing in hair, maybe still fully bald, but yet the takeaway is that she's the one with the problem.
Right.
Girl.
Yep. And that's how it ends.
That's how the book ends. And that, I think, is why I'm interested to see what happens in the second one, because if it picks up right where it left off at, you know, I have high hopes in the sequel that maybe Artemis regains some of her power, you know? I don't think it will happen.
Well, you can read it and let me know what happens.
I will, when it's available at the library. Girl, listen, we're about to get into not just the movie, but into some other stuff. And I'm never paying for anything again. Yeah, so the movie. Do we want to admit at the top of this how long it took each of us to watch this film?
3 days. 3 separate sittings for my husband and I to finish watching this bullshit movie.
The movie's only like 2 hours, isn't it?
I couldn't get through it. We started watching it, and I want to say it was like a weekend. So, you know, we can watch movies on the weekdays, and obviously I watch a lot of movies, so of course I do. But, you know, it's that thing where if I don't get home until 7 o'clock or eating dinner late, you know, then it just gets late, and I have to go to bed at a certain time in order to get up in the morning. So sometimes it takes me longer to watch movies on the weekdays, but this was definitely a weekend movie, and it took 3 different sit downs to get all the way through it. It's
it honestly took Jesse and I a full night, and it's 140 minutes. 140 minutes is the runtime of this film. it probably took us 4 hours to watch this movie.
Carlos told me if it were not for you, I would not finish this movie.
I felt bad because Jesse hasn't read the book, and he liked the movie.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
He not like a big fan of it, but like I think when we both watched it the first time, it was both like, oh, that was entertaining, that kind of liking of the movie. So we went back into, I think when we went back into viewing this, he went back into it with that mindset. I went back into it with like, I'm gonna keep my finger on the pause button and tell you everything that's wrong. That's why it took us so long, because I kept literally, within the first 20 minutes, I must have paused the movie at least 18 times. For each minute, I paused it. Because I was flabbergasted. I was lost from the... I was like, I literally just read this book. Why is there a car race?
God, I think that this book, for an adaptation, it should be a TV show. Yes. I think you do a TV show on HBO similar to the Lovecraft Country, which is really fucking great. Everybody should watch that. Yeah. It's a really good show. And they do sci-fi, they do effects really well. You take this book and you do 2 to 3 seasons of a show, end it right there. Don't string it along. Just keep it like kind of shorter, and it works really well. As a movie, you already have problems, and I think that Steven Spielberg being the director is a huge problem. I don't think that he is the right fit at all for Ready Player One.
I don't think that anybody who was mentioned in the book should have had a hand in the directing, writing, any portion of the film, because you can't take yourself apart from your own stuff. And then even reading the trivia for it, he didn't want any of his material in the film, with the exception of the dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Right. And it's a step further where this book is written, it's obviously a love letter, and it's written from a fanboy perspective. And I don't use the word fanboy as, an insult. It's a fanboy. I'm a fangirl. It's a fanboy. So you have these filmmakers who are making stuff, I'd say Edgar Wright. I would say even if you look at The Mandalorian and what Favreau and Filoni are doing with that, they're fanboys. Yeah. They're guys that are just so obsessed with whatever it is that they cared about from their childhood, and they've brought it into an artistry in their adulthood. That's the eye that you need behind Ready Player One, not Steven Spielberg. Sorry.
I would even say Taika Waititi.
Yes. And actually, that's a perfect name too, because I really like movie scores, and although I'm all right with Alan Silvestri, his score is so fucking forgettable. And then you think about the score with the Thor Ragnarok movie and all of the colors and the energy and even the presence of Jeff Goldblum. That's the type of touch that you need with this.
Yes, because especially if you're going to make it, if you're not going to do it as a TV show and you're going to do it as a movie, there are so many throwaways in this film that
a lot.
If you're not really paying attention, you're definitely missing it. And by inserting somebody 80s into the film, you're instantly bringing back that audience, Mm-hmm. It's just, it definitely missed the mark on more than one category for me when translating it from the book to the movie. Like, I understand that they tighten everything up. Like, that's the first big thing. Is like, in the book, in order to, to get the egg, all you have to do is, win those 3 challenges, and that's it. Whereas in the book, you have to get the key, open the gate, win that challenge, next step. Like, the book is definitely original, like, old school controller video game. And the movie is definitely like PS4. Are PS4s old now? Is that a dumb thing to say?
The weird thing with the movie is that the book is video game heavy, but still obviously talks a lot about movies and TV shows. Then the movie is super movie heavy. And I thought, well, maybe it's because they couldn't get the rights, or their legal team couldn't get, agreements to have certain video games. But no, there's still a lot of video game characters in the background. A lot of like the guns and ships are from video games. They just didn't care to feature them. Instead, you've got bullshit like Chucky and King Kong and all these like Warner Brothers things. So like Batman's all over the place. And you know me, I love me a Batman, but come on.
Yeah, that's what threw me. The simplicity of the Easter egg challenge in the book, it wasn't something that needed to be elevated. Like, the idea behind it is, Holiday's obsessed with the 80s. The 80s were this. They didn't have to do what they did to upgrade it for the movie. People loved the book the way it was, and there was so much that you could easily do that could have translated to the screen and still tighten it up a little bit. Because overall, right off the bat, his aunt doesn't hate him.
Yeah.
Wade's aunt doesn't hate him. Wade is supposedly like a teenage heartthrob. And he doesn't have to go to school. He's not dirt poor. Like he's portrayed in the book. Like in the book, he can't go anywhere. He can't do anything. Yet in the movie, he can immediately go and race in the DeLorean that he already owns, which I think has Kit's lights on it, just like I hated in the book.
No, yeah, it does have the lights. It definitely does.
I mean, at least they got rid of the Ghostbusters stickers. Let's get real here. At least you did one. Could have gotten rid of Kit. I didn't need him either. But it's...
The casting, too, with Ty Sheridan. I'm not a big Ty Sheridan
fan.
No,
neither.
Thank God. And it's like the character is weaker in the movie because of the fact that he's less flawed. And then you've got Ty Sheridan, and it's just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, he's too good.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where it threw me, is like, in the book, you have a hero's journey for Wade. Wade has his arcs, it ebbs and flows. In this, you can't go, how high can you go when you're already up at the top?
Right.
Like, that's where I was kind of like, oh, whatever. And then a lot of minor changes bothered me too, like how in the book, the almanac is literally like a library book that you can read virtually, but Wade prints it out. Now all of a sudden it is a museum of scenes from his life that you could just replay.
Yeah, and the character, I didn't even think we talked about her really. Just we kind of mentioned her, but there's this extremely small part of the book is that Halliday, it turns out that him and his best friend, business partner, Og, that there's a love triangle because Ogden Morrow has a girlfriend and she goes by Kira, which is a callback to God, what is it?
I almost said
the Fantasy Muppets.
the Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal, thank you. Okay,
the David Bowie movie.
No, not that one. The other one. Oh yeah. The Fantasy Muppets without David Bowie's dick. The other one.
The one without the baby.
Yeah. So
we just failed. Now we got kicked out of the 80s club. We're saying.
So she goes by the name Kira because of Dark Crystal, and it turns out that Halliday was always in love with her. That's it. That's
Yeah.
the end of that story. And yeah, the almanac is turned into this other thing, and the whole love triangle thing is blown up. It's like
Oh yeah,
a
it is.
whole storyline.
It's crazy because in the book too they mention that they think that Holiday had a mild form of Asperger's, which is why he was
Right.
so obsessive about these things from his childhood, which makes a lot of sense when
It
you're reading
does,
the
yeah.
book. Like you get that. None of that carried over into the movie. In the movie, he's just some eccentric computer guy, and you're just like, oh,
I would disagree with that. I do think that it does come off the with some of his acting choices. I think that he is displaying some characteristics.
but they never blatantly say it like they do in
They
the
do
book.
not. No.
Because in the book,
Correct, yeah.
he's kind of out there. Like they talk about how he would
Yeah.
fire somebody if they didn't get his references, and all of that lends itself more to the Easter egg challenge where everything is about his life and his childhood. That's why it's those
Right.
movies. That's why it's these things. And then I think that helped solidify why some of the things were chosen in the book. But when you get to the movie, it's kind of just like a free for all. And then the Kira thing made me so mad because in the book, it's specifically the way it's written out. You know, Og and Kira were dating. Then the three of them built the thing together. Og had no idea that
Yeah.
Holiday was madly in love with her. Even though
Right.
she was the only girl he would ever have the confidence to talk to, but he would only talk to her in her Dungeons and Dragons name. And she was the key at the end of the book, too. That was the password
Right.
on the computer, was her Dungeons and
Right.
Dragons name. So you knew that in the book, his main love was her. In the
Right.
movie, it's just, once again, why do we need this romance? It wasn't necessary.
It's not necessary. And when there's a lot of changes in the movie that kind of piss me off. So you have Kira getting elevated. You've got Artemis being lowered. And in one of my favorite parts in the book is when he's put in the indentured servitude because of, I mean, he does it on purpose,
Yeah.
but it just goes to show like how fucked up this world is. And in the movie that doesn't happen, and instead she's captured,
Yeah.
which is stupid as fuck, and it would never happen with Artemis, who she is as a character. And then you've got Olivia Cook, who is extremely petite. It's like the whole bit about her.
Oh, yeah.
Her weight is completely thrown out the window.
Jesse and I were very confused about how two straight lines can be called curvy.
Yeah. Right.
Like, I don't want to
Right.
comment on anybody's body type because
No, of
you
course
know,
not.
maybe for her, she thinks she is curvy. Maybe for the casting agents, she is curvy. I don't know. But the
Nikki,
description...
they did not care. That was completely thrown out the window.
No, they didn't.
They did not care about that.
There is a literal line in the book that Artemis has started a plus-size curvy girl avatar clothing
Yeah.
line. I'm supposed to believe that the Artemis from the movie is going to sell plus-size girls some clothes? Bring it.
No. And just think about what it would mean to so many women had they had a Steven Spielberg blockbuster movie coming out Easter weekend and the main chick in it is a plus size chick. I mean, that would have been so cool.
It would have
You
changed
get
things.
It really would have. You get maybe an unknown actress who is, and plus size isn't even, I mean, depending on who you're talking to, it's not even necessarily like the right word, but you get an actress that looks completely different than all the other actresses in the lineup. That's huge.
Yeah. Oh, and
But
don't
no-
even get me started on how they elevated IROC.
Oh my God. So when I read the book, I read the book before the movie came out. Because again, I read it, I think it was like 2014, 2015. And by the time that the movie came out, I saw that, and of course there's been some things about TJ Miller that has
Yeah.
come out since when this was originally announced. But I saw TJ Miller as IROC, and I thought, oh, that's funny. You know, he gets just like basically a cameo because it's like 2 lines in the book is IROC. But I thought that he'd be perfect. Like, he's got that attitude. And at the time I was watching the show on HBO, but then he's like turned into a main character.
He is the secondary villain.
Yeah, unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary. The movie, this is where I got confused by the movie, is that they took away something so simple from the book, you know, the challenge, and made it more complicated, and then added more characters to just keep complicating it.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And sure, some things still carry over, like how Wade's aunt's house in the stacks gets blown up. That carries over. But then that's the only thing. Like, we're made to believe that Wade's the only target, not everybody.
Right.
And that was what was so important about the book, is like everybody is in danger. Everybody who is not a Sixer is in danger, and you have to get that information out there. And now it's like, oh, well, why should I care if it's Wade's house?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, bye, Wade. And also his relationship with his aunt. I don't understand why we were meant to care about her in the movie, when in the book she is an awful human being.
Yeah.
Why take away so much to add so little, you know, to the film? Like,
it's just like everything that was a little bit unique or really dark with the book becomes just safe and glossy. And my favorite parts, the part with him being sad in the apartment and how kind of grounded that is, gone. Him being put into the slavery, gone. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, it was just...
And I'm sorry, one more thing is even they change it from the, was it Tomb of Terrors or whatever with Dungeons and Dragons to The Shining. And guess what? This is a PG-13 movie. The Shining is only an R-rated movie. So even with like having the Shining part in the movie, it's completely toned down and being PG-13.
Oh yeah, and that was so... I'm still trying to wrap my head around why it was even there. Like, the point of that challenge was to save Kira by jumping on zombies. Okay, listen. Okay. Pull up a chair, you guys. Has anyone actually seen The Shining who worked on this movie? Because there aren't zombies in The Shining. They're all manifestations of Jack's going craziness, you know, especially when you... like. Oh, okay, you know what? I'm not going to get into it. Because who knows? Maybe we'll do The Shining. I really want to talk to Stephen King and be like, did you approve that scene in this movie?
Oh, of course he didn't.
Because I know for a fact you are probably the most angriest person about that. Because I know you hated that movie, but now you're going to let it live on in the form of Ready Player One with Steven Spielberg? Really? Oh.
Honestly,
I just like unleashed. Oh, God, that felt good to get it off my chest.
I can honestly read between the lines, because you've got this movie, it comes out 2018. They add in The Shining because Dr. Sleep is coming out the next year, 2019. They add in this stupid Chucky doll in The Last Battle because the Chucky movie with Mark Hamill is coming out 2019. So it's like all of their branding, they got together and figured out, well, what are we going to sell? What are we going to be pushing in the markets within the next couple of years? We'll put that in the movie. That way it's... you know, putting little hints at what's to come in people's minds. And renewed interest in things. That's
so upsetting. It's so incredibly upsetting to choose, because the whole thing, the whole point of the book and the whole point of the movie is that IOI wants to market the Oasis to people. Steven Spielberg, did you read the book before you made this movie? Why are you marketing during a movie? Like, I don't need your subliminal messages. If I wanted that, I'd watch Josie and the Pussycats. Come on. Oh my
No, exactly. And the thing that I like about the book, like I said, there's a little bit of everything for everyone. I
Yeah.
have never played the game Adventure, but I think it's cool that it's in there because at this point it's esoteric. It's not something that everybody is going to understand, but it's there. But everybody knows Chucky. Everybody
Yeah.
knows, Nightmare on Elm Street. And having that in there, it's not exactly intelligent. It's not a little nod to something that only a small group of people understand.
Yeah, it's like they took a fandom and was like, yeah, we're going to forget you guys again. And it's not very often that people can see something that they love and something that they care about in such a large format, be it books or, TV shows or movies, then to take that, turn it into a film and completely remove all of that. It's like, that's like doing Star Wars, but taking Darth Vader out of it. Like, you can't just, I mean, you can, I guess you did. You made money off of this stupid movie, but you're kind of ruining it somehow.
Yeah, and going back to my comparison over to Favreau and Filoni with The Mandalorian, there's the whole thing where in the first season, the little bucket where all of his reward is in, that bucket goes back to an inside joke of fans of being an ice cream maker that they put in the movie. It's like this cheap ass prop, and they knew about it, and there used to be like races and stuff at conventions, so they decided to take that and turn it into the ultimate MacGuffin in The Mandalorian. And that's what I'm talking about when it's like, it should be a nerd eye, it should be a fanboy eye putting stuff in, not just these people figuring out what rights they can get easily and what they want to boost in everybody's mind so that they buy tickets in a year to a different movie.
It's like, I don't understand how he missed the mark so much, because even Disney and Pixar do it. They have Easter eggs in their films that people look for. Taylor Swift puts Easter eggs in her stuff for her super diehard fans.
Yeah.
How is it that like an Easter egg by definition is something that is hidden that needs to be found? You showing me Chucky straight up in my face is not an Easter egg. That's subliminal messaging. Right. That is a Sixer trait. You know what, Steven Spielberg? You're a Sixer. I don't want you in my Oasis. Hit the button, Wade. Hit the button.
Well, and there's the thing with like the whole book is around 80s 80s pop culture. So when you have something like a Metal Gear Solid character dancing in the background of the club, I'm sorry, what does that have to do again? How is this an 80s Easter egg? That's not the point.
And don't even get me started on their actual avatars. The avatars from the book, the way they were described, they're supposed to look like them. Like they picked of every creature out there because they were in school. These were kids. They couldn't be crazy or whatnot in their avatars, especially when they were on campus. And even when they weren't, they were still semi-normal. H was a super muscular white guy. But, Parzival, being poor, could only afford the base model, which was just a human. No, now he's some weird blue guy with some, When Harry Met Sally, Meg Ryan hair. I am so confused. And then you have, oh my God, then you have Artemis, who shows up completely pink, punk hair, all this stuff. I clearly recall in the book, she's just supposed to be a human who wears a bunch of armor. I understand what he was doing, but even in the movie, he literally goes against what Wade says about Artemis in the book, about Artemis not being like other girls. Now she looks like everybody else in the background.
Yep.
He read the book, right? Now I'm starting to really question if Steven Spielberg even read this book.
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. And yeah, like the look of their characters, it's more like Final Fantasy type design, and that's not how I pictured it.
Like I've never played World of Warcraft. My mom does play World of Warcraft. Everybody, she loves it because
your mom is the best.
Yeah, she plays it because it like. You know, when I call her, sometimes she's like, I'm killing things. What do you need? I'm like, what? Or she'll be playing Stardew Valley and she's like, I'm gardening. What do you need? I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. Go help Mr. McGregor with his boat or whatever on your farm. So I've seen some of the characters and stuff, and I've seen the commercials when they used to do it for the Super Bowl and stuff like that. This whole movie was just a big World of Warcraft marketing campaign to me. At points, I was like, it's the Fast and the Furious ride and World of Warcraft. That's really all there was.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
I consider this a pretty big failure for an adaptation, and it's interesting to me that you said that your husband enjoyed it, because I know people liked it. So we are, of course, looking at it with the eye of comparing it to the book, but frankly, I did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Even when we watch something like The Birds. The Birds movie has nothing to do with The Birds book. Die Hard. I really enjoyed the book Die Hard, and I really enjoy the movie, and I feel that had I even read and watched those in reverse, I still think I'd be able to enjoy the movie. But this, I didn't even enjoy it. It wasn't even entertaining for me. And there was so many parts that felt like I should be laughing. Like there's the part when they have the Shining moment, and and then it like cuts out and you see all the Sixers and they're afraid, like they're freaking out. But I didn't laugh.
Yeah, no, me either.
I didn't find it to be funny. One of the only things I laughed at that was so fucking stupid is you see Sorrento and you see his setup, and then which is so dumb.
He's got the password.
He's got his password written and like taped down on the arm of his chair, and his password is Bossman69. That did make me laugh.
Yeah.
And the S's are dollar signs.
Oh, yeah, they're dollar signs. It's like 80 dollar sign.
Yeah.
This was, and I was honest with Jesse. I told him this too after the 4 hours of watching the movie. And if we're just talking straight up the book, I really like the book. I think the book is really good, but unfortunately we're not. When it comes to from book to film adaptation, I would say that even Eat, Pray, Love had a better book to film adaptation than this. And I know that
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I know that it was very hard for me to admit, but even like Eat, Pray, Love added in a bunch of stuff that I was just like, oh, I hate this so much. Whereas Ready Player One took away so much.
Well, and Eat, Pray, Love corrected some of the things that we were upset about with the book.
Yeah.
Whereas my favorite parts of the book, which are the bleaker, like I said, like Black Mirror-esque scenes, are completely omitted. It's all washed down.
They just added in so much that didn't need to be there. The Kira romance, Artemis is now a damsel in distress and needs the team to come and save her. We don't have IOI being super murderous, which was such a key part of the book. There's even a scene in the movie that really got under my skin, where IOI has this like brain trust or whatever of all these like nerdy guys, and the only female who's in that room who has any speaking lines lets him know that the final video game that they need to play in order to win, to get the egg, because of course they only have to play one game to get the egg, is Adventure, which is mentioned a lot in the book as the first game with an Easter egg in it. And she says it, that they have to play it. They all agree that they have to play it and win and beat the game. And they have a sixer in there who's playing the game, wins, and still ends up falling through the ice and losing. And that guy turns to her and goes, it was an adventure. And I was like, first of all, it is adventure. Second of all, don't be a dick. Like, what? Your job in this room is to cross names off of a board. Like,
right?
Like, there was no reason to have that snark, but it all harkens back to the whole idea that women aren't supposed to be in that club, you know?
Right.
And it was such a minor thing that happened that really just, like, stuck with me. And I was like, oh, God, so mad about that.
Because it's a choice. And it's a choice amongst a lot of choices that undermine the whole point of the book, the characters, specifically the female characters.
Yeah.
I mean, you have H, and I think actually the casting of H is pretty good, but you don't have her really going into her backstory.
No.
And there's a certain magic of when H and Parzival meet in the book that is extremely reminiscent of Bruce Willis and Al Powell meeting in Die Hard, where they've only spoken over, these walkie-talkies this whole time. And then they finally meet at the very end of the book and they just laugh. They look at each other and laugh and have this connection. And that's exactly what it's like when they finally meet in the book. And then when it's not special.
Yeah.
It's not a moment.
Yeah, I wanted more. I definitely wanted more from this film, but not the stuff that they added to it.
And for what, almost 2.5 hours? I mean, that's a long movie. I think it works. I think it in a certain way, and my husband and I talk about this a lot. In a certain way, I think that the movie industry hit the wall with, like, the Avengers movies. I think it's kind of donezo, and then the pandemic happening is sort of like the nail in the coffin. I think a lot of this stuff just simply works better in TV. We're in the 10th year beyond that of the second wave of a golden age of TV. I mean, TV is just so good at this point that moments with H and Artemis can be done in full episodes, and they're not even a couple minutes in a movie, they're gone.
Yeah. Like, going back to our last episode with High Fidelity, they even took time out to have a single episode dedicated to a minor character, and you and I both agreed that that was an amazing choice. Great. It was perfect. That's all they really need to do, and I agree. Like, if Disney had, the rights to this, I imagine this was something they'd put on Disney Plus, and I would watch it. I would definitely watch this as a TV show.
I would totally watch it.
It's because I agree, like, film now has really hit, it's jumped its own shark, like, it is
right. Yeah.
Like, we've reached a point where you're just like, what's the next most creative thing? I mean, I haven't watched Tenet yet. I have to send it to you. I haven't watched it yet.
Well, that makes two of us. Guys, there's a whole backstory here. We're not going to get into it.
Yeah, it's a thing. And once again, I apologize. I'm not the Grinch. I swear. But that feels like the peak jumping of the shark right now during the pandemic, because it was so expensive to do, because it had all these really cool special effects that I'm sure that if we had all been allowed to see it in theaters would have dominated, would have been amazing, would have been, fabulous. You're perfect. You're Linda Evangelista. But
Linda Evangelista.
But no one could see it. No one could do that. Film itself has to really think about what it's doing and where it's going. And now, independent cinema is going to have its heyday, and it's going to be, a bigger thing, than what is actually what was happening pre-pandemic. Like, pre-pandemic, Star Wars, Marvel, that's great, but look at look at how the shift has been able to happen for Marvel. Now you have WandaVision, a TV show. Look at Star Wars. We have The Mandalorian, a TV show. It's
You've got WandaVision, which, you know, we're in the middle of right now, where it's a character that I thought was all right. She wasn't a favorite of mine by any means. I thought she was fine. You know, I thought the character was fine. I thought the acting was fine in the movies. But, I mean, how much screen time does she even have between the movies that she's in? And they've made a television show where I'm not only invested into the character, but I think that the aesthetic, the production design is kind of genius with doing the different genres of TV. And on top of it, it's a whole piece about grief and mental illness and how you tackle that. I mean, I get the arguments that people make against blockbusters and Marvel and Disney and even heck Steven Spielberg. Like, I get that argument, but that doesn't mean that like good art can't come of it. And frankly, I think that TV is kind of the best way to achieve it at this point.
Yeah, if you can't take your source material and make it into what you need within 2 hours, then definitely turn towards television as your next step, because you don't want a situation like this where you're condensing such a large world. And I mean, it is, when you talk about the Oasis, especially in the book, it's huge. It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And then you're condensing it literally into a car race, The Shining, and a creepy museum full of files. Like, that was not...
so lame.
It's so lame.
It's so lame.
It's lazy is what it really is. It's like, I could have done X,
lazy.
Y, and Z, but instead I did A, B, C. And it's like, nobody wanted A, B, C, Steven Spielberg. We wanted the cool stuff from the book. Like, I'm...
Right. Yeah.
And this is from someone who, I liked the book. I didn't love the book, but I would have much preferred some of the more problematic instances from the book being on that screen than you fabricating a romance that didn't need to be there. I'm going to return my soapbox now.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking a lot about Wreck-It Ralph because, I mean, that's obviously like Disney Pixar, but they were able to successfully cram in all these different genres of video games into one movie, and it still had a lot of heart, and it made sense. And even the second one, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Like,
yeah,
I think that both of those are obviously it's geared to kids, but it's a better version of what like the Oasis should be, where you have all these different pop culture elements going on at the same time.
You know what? If that's what the Oasis looks like, if the Oasis looks like Ralph Breaks the Internet, I'm good. Sign me up. Give me my goggles. Honestly, though, when I was, speaking of Disney Pixar, reading the book and reading some of the description of the contraptions that they put themselves in to be in the Oasis, 110% thought of WALL-E.
Oh, yeah, I know.
When they're on all those, like, floating loungers and stuff, I was like, oh my God, this guy just wrote WALL-E.
I mean, but you think about WALL-E, and it's in a dystopian future.
Yeah. If you got Wreck-It Ralph to team up with WALL-E, that is Ready Player One. That's the movie we should have seen. I'm just gonna watch WALL-E and Wreck-It Ralph back to back.
But this is what I'm talking about, where it's Steven Spielberg, and we are saying that WALL-E and Wreck-It Ralph are better than a Steven Spielberg movie. This is what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah,
I know that everybody loves Steven Spielberg, but at a certain time, it's like if what you're making isn't as good as your best, maybe you should just help the new generation be better than coming out with bullshit like Ready Player One.
Yeah, and like, to anyone listening, we're not saying that Steven Spielberg is crap. I mean, I
No,
we
not at
love
all.
Spielberg films, but it's true. There comes a point where he's great, he's great, he's great, he's great. He's mediocre. And it's like, do you really want to be... I mean, I almost said, do you really want to be a rich, mediocre director your whole life? And I was like, oh, maybe. But that's just me. um, but is that really the route you want to go down? Do you want to end on a high, or do you want to, end on a low? And this is definitely
Listen,
not good.
you're Alfred Hitchcock. You're Alfred Hitchcock. You can either end with Marnie or you can end with family plot.
Oh, God,
Choose.
Marnie.
Which one? Which one do you want?
Steven, pick Marnie. Now, I know...
Listen, you had Lincoln. Now go retire.
Yeah, you're good. Listen, you've done your business. Listen, you could have retired with E.T. You're fine. You're good. You got... Just leave it at that. Okay, so we mentioned before that we have been ranking the books and movies that we talk about. And our current list, as it stands, in first place is a tie with Waiting to Exhale and High Fidelity. Second... Yes. Oh, we never figured this out if it was second or third place because of the tie.
No, it's third.
It's third?
It's third place.
Okay, in third place, we have The Birds. And pulling up the rear, forever and always, is Eat, Pray, Love. So after all of this, Christina, where do you think... should we vote on where Ready Player One goes on this one?
Yeah, I think it's second from the bottom.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think The Birds is a lot better.
I knew you were.
Yeah.
Well, The Birds, both as a short story that is extremely effective, and a movie.
Yeah.
That is also very good. Ready Player One is a very fun read. I would recommend it to a lot of different people, but second from the bottom.
Yeah. I agree. I would recommend Ready Player One to people to read. It is fun, and when you really get into it, it's a fast read.
It is.
Like, there are some really good parts in it. I would not recommend the film to anybody.
I would not.
Yeah, like, unfortunately, I just wouldn't go down that road unless you've already watched everything else there is to watch on an airplane, maybe.
Right.
It's a good airplane
Listen,
movie.
if you can't sleep and you're on the couch and it's like 3:00 in the morning and it's on TV and you drop the remote, it's all right.
Yeah, like if you're,
you can keep watching
you're
it.
flipping channels and you're on like FX and it's like halfway through. I mean, sure. Oh my God, we haven't been this mean to something since Eat, Pray, Love.
I don't think we are being mean.
I feel like I'm being mean. Should I apologize for being mean?
Don't you should not apologize for your feelings. And like I said at the beginning, I think that there is some stuff in here that triggered you, and that's that.
Yeah.
If you have feelings, those feelings are valid, and I will say when I disagree with you. So no, do not apologize.
Thank you. Oh, I owe you so much money for this therapy session. Okay, moving. We're gonna ease on down the road.
We are going to be taking a brief break, just because what we do is 2 episodes a month, and the way that the weeks fall, there will be 2 months this year that will have an extra week.
Yes.
So it'll be just slightly longer between now and the next episode. But we will be back.
Yeah.
We are not dropping the ball. We're dropping the ball in a planned way.
Yeah, we're doing
What's that?
as they say in one of my favorite movies, Spring Breakers. We're going on spring break.
Talk about problematic people.
I know. I like that movie.
Yes, we are going on spring break.
Spring break.
But when we return, what is it that we will be discussing?
Well, when we return, we're off to see the wizard. The The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So, yes, we will be traveling the Yellow Brick Road, and we're going to do Wizard of Oz. It's our big spring, Eastery, get into your feelings kind of book and movie. I'm very excited.
Well, we go from Easter eggs to the Wizard of Oz, so...
Ooh, I see what you did there. You did that on purpose.
No, I'm excited about it because I read the book a long time ago. I want to say I was in like high school or something. So reread it, watch the movie, which you do not have to force me to do.
Yeah.
So
Remember when we talked about movies you could do from beginning to end?
Yeah.
Hook me up. Done. Oh, I'm very excited. I'm very excited for us to kind of like, much like Halliday had everyone relive his childhood, you guys are going to relive ours.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Nikki. This has been interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Christina, for being here and just, oh my God, let me unload. I'm going to pack up all my thoughts and feelings now.
And as always, we thank Jesse, our wonderful producer.
Yeah, he definitely wants to go on spring break.
He deserves it.
Spring break from the couch. No, thanks, Christina, and thank you all for listening. So, take some time, sit with your feelings, and get ready for The Wizard of Oz.